Hi Marty and welcome back to the second episode of Krita, the beginner's guide. And in today's episode I'm gonna lead you through all the tools we have in Krita and kinda explain you what they are doing, because I think it's quite important that you know like all the things that the program can do and the things that you can use in your paintings. Okay, the first tool I'm gonna talk about is the brush tool. Well, there are some tools in front of that, that we could talk about, but they are kind of self-explanatory. You don't really need to know much about them. It's just a, shape manipulation tool that works for the shapes up there. Like you can, if you do some text, you can like resize it by this tool, or if you do some pen shape or line or some curve with the pen, you can also manipulate the curve with the shape manipulation tool. These are patterns and stuff. They're not really important right now, so let's skip them. I don't think you will ever need them in a painting, so I'm not gonna cover them at all. So our first tool is brush tool. Well, that's pretty much everything you're gonna need for the digital painting. Brush tool, as you can see, has some tool options. Every tool in our toolbox has some tool options. Well, for brush, the first is smoothing. That means how much your line will depend on the input from your tablet or mouse and how much it will stabilize. We have basic smoothing. That's just basic. It will make your lines a little bit smoother. Then we have weighted smoothing, which you can add distance, and it's kind of better. I'm using this one with really low settings, so it's not affecting me as much. It's better for line art and stuff like that. And then we have stabilizer, which is kind of different from the other ones, because this one is actually stabilizing your lines. So you can actually make your lines really smooth. It's really good if you're doing super defined opaque line art, the kind of stuff with this kind of brush, with the really opaque brush that has only size pressure on. So the only thing that's changing is the size of the brush. So this is really good for it. As you can see, we have two circles, not really circles, but we have this big circle around, and then we have our brush tip. And the thing how it works is that if you leave the big circle with a small circle, it will smooth out your line like that. It works pretty well. Sometimes it's a little bit, I don't know, it can do stuff that you don't want it to do. So sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. You have to do a little bit of grinding with this tool to get used to it, but I'm not really using it. I'm using just a weighted smoothing, and it works just fine for me. Okay, let's move to another tool. Line tool kind of tells what it does, right? In the tool options, we have use sensor, show preview. This tool has pretty much no options, because these are doing not much. Pretty much straightforward. Click, drag, and you had a line. The line will be filled with the brush preset you have selected here. So if I, for example, select this one, it will do this kind of. This one, this. Okay? Now let's move to the rectangle tool. It's pretty much similar to the line tool. It works exactly the same, the usage is exactly the same. You just click and drag and make your rectangle. That's one way of doing it. The second way I will show in a few seconds. Now let's go through the tool options. The first part of the tool options is geometry option. The first one is fill. That means what is the filament of our rectangle. You can set it to not filled. That means that you will have only the outline. Foreground color, this is our foreground color. Or background color, this is our background color. Or pattern. Patterns are kind of difficult to use. You can find them. I will not show you how to make patterns or how to use them. You don't really need them for digital painting. I wouldn't recommend to using them from the beginning, because it's just the icing on the cake. You don't really need them for painting. The outline, pretty much the same thing, either no outline or brush. let's like not fills, so it's like empty, only the outline, and outline is brush. So now we can select some brush and do rectangle, which with this kind of this kind of brush is not really cool, but with this one we can get some really cool like effect or patterns. Anyway, that's the first way how to make, you know, just click and drag. There's another way how to do it, is that you know the size of your actual rectangle you want to use. For example, I want exact square, so that's 300 pixels times 300 pixels. So I'll just write 300 and 300 on the width and height, and then just lock these options, both of them. And the thing I'm gonna do is just a click. And we have our rectangle there, you know, our square, like. Okay, so this is for the rectangle tool. The same thing applies to the circle tool or ellipse tool. So let's just show it how it works, like this. It's pretty much the same. Now we have the polygon tool. It works exactly the same as the line tool before, but now we have like two more options, you know, we have the fill and outline. The reason why we have this tool here, because polygon tool can only be, you have to finish the whole circle to make the polygon, you know, like this. You click, drag, click, drag, click, drag, click, drag, click, drag, and then you have to come back to your first click, you know, first point. That's why you have the filled options here and outline option here. Let's move to another one. This is the polyline tool. It's it's real similar to polygon tool, but now we don't have to, like, you know, finish the circle. We can just do this, you know, zigzag, 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 and by hitting enter you finish the polyline. Okay, and it will fill, of course, with your brush preset. You can change the size and hit enter, and it will do a different one. Okay, the few next ones are curves. The first one is Bezier curve. If you don't know what it is, I won't like give you much of it because it's quite complicated to explain. But pretty much what it does is to allows you to create curves. How it works. Okay. First thing you do is to click to start your curve. And then you click and drag to make the curve the way you want it. And release. And then you can add like another point and also drag and relieve, or, you know, and create your curve. First thing, you don't have to finish it. If you just hit enter, it will just do it like this. Or you can like go all the way around and connect them, and it will like fill itself. Now we have some tools, geometry tools, fill. We know what these are doing, right? It will either fill the inside of it or just select what it's the outline of it. Angle constraints. Well, how I said, it's quite complicated to like explain what Bezier curve actually does. The best way for you would be to probably go to Wikipedia and look at it. Look at what this number means. Pretty much it means how like the curve is, what the curve does when you're like doing this thing. That's pretty much what it does. How much it affects the curve is this angle delta number. Okay, let's delete it and move to another curve. Freehand path tool. Okay, this will like create a curve, but you can't edit this curve. That's one of the downside of it, I would say. But of course we have another two options like fill and outline like we had before. The pencil, we have three precisions here. We have raw, which is not as precise. You might see some like, you know, hard edges here and there, like here for example. The second one is curve, which is like the most precise one. It will like create the most smooth line you can get. You can see there are no more hard edges anywhere. And then we have straight, which does exactly what it says. It's pretty much when the angle is big enough, this angle, when it like crosses this angle, it will create straight line. Let's say this way. Okay, yeah, maybe it's quite like confusing, but this is how it works. Then we have line, and this is just the line that is showing when you're drawing it. It's not the line that it will fill the thing with. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this tool. It's okay for some occasions, but I'm not really using it. Now we have a next tool, which is dynamic brush tool. This brush tool I'm not really fan of. I don't think it's like usable for actual painting, but maybe you find it interesting. Pretty much what the tool options do. The mass and drag. Let's say that this brush tool is controlled by physics a little bit. For example, if I do like a line and I stop, okay, I'm just doing line and I'm stopping at the one point, and it will like keep going, you know, on its momentum until I get there, you know. If I do like circle, it will start doing spirals down. It's okay if you like want to do like hair or some ribbons with some dynamic part in them. It's really good for this, and the mass and everything affects how much it will drag behind your like stopping point, or you know, how much the physics will affect your line. Let's say this way. Okay, well, it's really nice for some things, but I'd say like you don't have control over what it actually does, so I'm not really a big fan of it. Now we have the multi-brush tool, which is super cool for if you're really into patterns and stuff like that. It can create amazing things with that. So we have, of course, tool options, the same tool options as in our brush tool. But we have few more, you know. We have show axis, this one, axis angle, and then some drop menu. It says symmetry, mirror, translate, and snowflake. And axis point, we can like select different axis point, okay? And we can move it around. Anyway, let's keep the show axis there, put it on 0. And let's say symmetry and 10 of them. Okay, now I take like some brush, the same one as we used for the things before. And let's start doing something. Oh, do you see what it does? You can pretty much it does the symmetry, how it says in the name here. It will like rotate your drawing by a certain amount of degrees and make symmetry out of it. And you can create these really nice patterns with it. This is amount of symmetry, like symmetry axis, like the steps that it will like cut your drawing into. If you have 4, it will just do 4. If you have like 2, it will just do like this, you know. Oh, that's pretty much what the symmetry does. Now we have mirror. We can click horizontal, vertical, and it will like mirror horizontal and vertical things. Pretty cool, right? Now the next option is translate. Pretty much what translate does is it will take your brush and add more of these brushes in your stroke, like the same brushes as you're using. For example, if you want just one, it's gonna be just a simple brush, okay? If I add 2, now we have 2 brushes there, see? And then we can do radius, which will like give it more freedom. Let's say this way. The smaller radius will give it less freedom to like rotate around each other. You can go like way more, like for example, I know 11, but it will really affect your performance of Krita. Be careful with this, but you can get really nice hair effect with these because it's not, how would I say it? It's not repetitive. It will just do a different line every time. So if you don't want like repetitive patterns in your hair or something like that, this can help you really to like make more detail, more randomness in your hair and, you know, other things as well. You know, it doesn't have to be just hair. And the last options here is snowflake. And the snowflake works pretty much the same as symmetry, but kinda with a mirror as well. You know, we have the mirror line around here, okay? And then we have the symmetry that it goes like around the circle. And you can make like super nice patterns without any like knowledge of patterns whatsoever. So it's really cool. Now we have, you know, the axis. We can add more of these steps, like or less, you know, or for example, only 5. Only 5 will do just 5, okay? And the radius, that will just add the radius, you know, of this mirror thing. You can do really nice pattern by just like dragging your mouse over the screen. It's just like, you know, adding something beautiful without any effort, which is really nice. Also, it's quite demanding on performance, so yeah, be careful what kind of number you add here and how big is your brush, because those things can affect your, you know, it can pretty much, if you do like super big number here and your brush is super big, it can render like hour or something, so be careful with that. See, I'm adding like 27 and it's slow. Okay, so be careful with this. It can like, you know, crash your Krita if you do like too much of it or something. Okay, and that's for the first line of our tools, and we can move to the second line where we can move things actually. Okay, the first thing, I'm just gonna add something here. And so we can actually use our next tool, which is transform a layer or selection tool. It has shortcut Ctrl+T, but we are not here to shortcut things. So if you use this thing, allow you to do transformations on your layer. So for example, we can rotate. We can, like, you know, resize in all the axes, I guess, and we can move and apply by enter. That's pretty much how it works. The next one is just the move tool. It does what it does. It can move your thing. Of course, let's go back for a bit. You can select if you need something like really precise, like do some really precise operation with it, you know, something really specific. You can of course click on the transform. It will show this rectangle around your selection, and you can select position and change the position through this, like to get exact number you want it. You know, you can just write the number here, for example 200, and it will get to 200. Another one is rotate. You can of course rotate the thing around all axes, all 3 axes, to get the thing you want, you know, to get some perspective thing there as well. Then we have scale. This is like scale. You can just scale the thing on 2 axes. And shear, which can give you some like perspective, cool perspective things into your drawing if you want it. I'm not really using this. I'm usually just resizing thing manually with these, you know, anchor points. But if it's like, if you're really into these perspective-based transformation or these precise transformation, you can use this. Of course, filter, big cubic, billionaire, box, Lawrence. That's just a quality of the transformation, like the transition of pixels, how to make it like better, because some of these can give you really bad effects to it, you know. So if you leave it on big cubic, it should be okay. Okay. So we have this tool done. Let's move to the move tool, which works exactly like the move in the transform tool. We can do move current layer, move layer with content, move the whole group. You can move the whole group, move the layer, or move, you know, things like that. That's referring to this layer Shortcut move distance, you can like add some shortcut, but I don't think it's like necessary for anything. Show coordinates. In the top left corner, you can see the coordinates. So you are moving your thing on the exact spot you want. Or you can just do the position manually through this. Just write the number there and just hit the enter and it will do the thing. Okay, let's move to another thing. Crop. This can crop your whole canvas to whatever size you want. So, of course, you apply it by hitting enter. And let's go through the tool option. Crop. This is the position of the crop and this is the size of the window. The ratio is just the aspect ratio of your, if it's gonna be 1, it's exactly square. But I don't know, you can like, it doesn't really matter. Like if you put the same numbers here and here, it will be square anyway, okay? Applies to image or layer. You can crop just your layer, by the way. Decorations, that means you can crop your layer the way that it will like delete everything that's outside this crop. It will just not like create smaller picture on top of your bigger picture. It will just delete everything that's outside of this boundaries, you know? Decoration, this is just showing you like these lines. It's more for the composition part of the things. You can actually check, you know, with thirds, you can check your composition, you know, the basic rule of the thirds when it comes to composition, that your focus point should be on these points somewhere or these lines somewhere, right? And then we have the button to crop. So we can crop it this way or just hitting enter. I'm not gonna do that. So let's come back and let's move to another tool. We have gradient tool, which, as the name suggests, it does gradients. So, the gradient tool works the way that you just click and drag and release, and it will do the gradient that way. You can change the gradients in this top corner, just clicking on this gradient thing. You have all the gradients you created, or there are some default ones in Krita, so you can use them. You can add new ones by clicking on add, or you can edit the existing ones. You can edit the ones that you created on your own. You can't edit the default gradients, so be careful about that. Okay, we can add a new gradient and then we get this thing. You can fill the name, let's call it GGG. Now, if you select one of these, you can change the color of it. Just clicking on the color here, and now we can select some different color, hit OK, and it will add it into gradient. You can also change the opacity of that point, you know, the color. Okay, now we can just do close. It's here, and it should be, yeah, it's here. And now we can edit it again, or add a new one, or deleted it. Okay, or deleted it, or something else. Okay, this is how you use gradients. Now let's go to two options of the gradients. Shape, liner, biliner, radial. You know, you can do like something with this, or we can do square thing with it, or we can do conical thing. You know, just these different things. It can really mess up your drawing. Now we can do repeat. You can do forward repeat, alternations, like stuff that you can change, anti-alias, threshold. Now we have color picker tool, or I don't know how it's called, eye picker? Color selection tool. It does exactly what it says. It will just select color. You can see I can select like this yellow, I can select the red, whatever, and then change, for example, to brush and start painting with it. We have some tool options as well for color picker. I'm not sure why it's called color picker here and color selection tool here, but it doesn't matter. Sample all visible layers or just current layer. If you just want to select color that is on current layer that you are just using, you click on current layer. If you want to select colors like from all visible layers, that means, if you have some like opacity changes, some alpha channels on some layers that it's like not opaque, 100% opaque, and you want to select like the whole thing, from top to bottom, you just have this option and bam, you are there. Update current color. That's pretty much the thing you want to have there, because otherwise it will not update this color. You can't use it afterwards. You can pick it, but you can't use it. Then you can do add to palette if you really want. If you have some palettes, you can just select the palette you want to add it in, for example, default. Click on add to palette and just click your color. Can I write to palette? Yeah, maybe it's read only. Okay, never mind. We can probably select some different one. Let's select this one. It should work. No, never mind. I probably have it only on read only. Never mind. Okay. Show colors as percentages. That this little checkbox will just show you the colors here as a percentages. I don't know, some people might like it. I don't really care. Sample color radius. This can actually make like average of color in certain like area on the screen. For example, if you do like sample radius 5, that means it will take 5 pixels on each side from it, and it will do like what's the average of them, okay? So you can get like kind of similar color to what you have. It's okay. It's really nice if you have like some noise in your picture and you want to pick like color that is really similar to it. But sometimes you like click on that noise and the noise pixel is like totally different than the color you actually wanted. So this is good for this kind of thing, to change the radius. Okay, let's go back to 1 because that's the default. So we'll just pick the exact pixel you're pointing at. Okay, well, the next tool we have here is the Smart Patch tool. Well, to show you how it works, I first need to do some kind of adjustments to our painting. Just a little bit. Where are we? With like maybe this. Let's make just, okay, let's do it differently with something more contrast. Okay, let's make just this line here, okay? Let's pick our Smart Patch tool. And you might know this from, Photoshop or other programs. And we can just delete it. If it's gonna work though. I hope it will. Oh, and it's gone. So pretty much this is for removing unwanted parts of your image, just to fixing your image, if you have like, I don't know, person in the image, in the photograph you want to remove, or get rid of it, or some bird in the sky or something like that, you can just remove it by this tool. Of course it's not perfect, but you have like, you can do like, the accuracy bit better, but yeah, it's not 100%, it's not perfect, it can leave some artifacts there, so use it like with caution, I guess. The next tool, fill tool, it does exactly what it says. It takes the color. Let's create a new layer. It takes the color and it will fill the background, like your layer with it. That's pretty much what it does. Now we have the assistant tool. This tool is quite actually cool. I found out about this tool like not that long time ago. I find it really nice. It will just give you the guidelines that will not show in the final image. Okay, so let's move on right straight to the tool options. You can create, for example, some ellipse. You can move your, like, it's just a guideline for something. For example, if you want to do like, I don't know, you want to draw something that's like a sphere, no, not sphere, like ellipse, you can add this guideline and just follow the guideline, and it will not show up in the actual drawing that you exporting. So it's like just a guideline, and you can like move it around, resize it, rotate it, or whatever, or just like turn it off, turn it on, or delete it, with this button. So this was the first one, but there are way more of these. We have like ellipse. Well, you will just add them by 3 points, the first point, second point, and then like the radius point. It works exactly the same. You can like do everything with it. Fish eye point. And just, these guidelines, you can adjust them. Infinite ruler. This is just the straight line that will, for example, help you if you want to make like, some perspective. For example, like street. You can just add these infinite rulers there. Parallel rulers. But now we're going to perspective. This is one of the things I really like about this. It will create this grid for you. And you can like, add more of these grids to make like the whole perspective for it. It's super cool. And you can like, put out these boundaries up to create the whole box for you. To create a whole perspective thing for you, which is super nice. I find this one like super cool. Now we have the angle tool. I think it's called angle tool. Let's check it. Oh, measure tool, sorry. We can measure distance just by click and drag. You can measure distance. You can see it in the tool options here. You can either pixels, centimeters, millimeters. The centimeters, millimeters are depending on your resolution, the PPI. Of course, we can measure the angle as well, just by clicking. And it will like, this horizontal line is like a 0, and then you like add it up and down and can measure like the degrees. It's like, I don't know, I don't find this really helpful, but if you're doing something really precise, this can be really helpful for you. So yeah. Now we have classic selection tools. We can select, by hitting delete, you can delete the thing. By selecting and using the transform tool, you can transform your selection, how I showed before, or just move it. This can work as well. That was a rectangle. We have circle one. This works exactly like these tools, You can set up the size like precisely by just putting numbers here and locking this and just clicking, or just, doing drag and click and drag thing. Now we have polygon selection tool. Works exactly the same as the polygon tool. You just have to finish it, and then it will create this polygon, and you can delete it or whatever. Freehand selection does exactly what it says. You just select the thing by freehand, I guess. You just draw the selection, let's say this way, with your tablet or mouse or whatever. You can create some nice things out of it, cutouts and stuff like that. Now we have our magic wand. I'm not sure if it's actually called... No, it's called continuous selection tool. I thought it's definitely not called magic wand because that's like probably trademark or something by Photoshop. So it works exactly like magic wand in Photoshop. You can get fuzziness, shrink selection, feathering. Pretty much what it does, it will do like continuous selection. So it will like take the color, and by the fuzziness and these like things, you can edit how much the color can differ from like your first selected color. And it will just go and try to select everything that's connected to it. As you can see, it's not selecting this part, because it's not connected, And that's where this thing comes in. The next one is color similar color selection tool. This pretty much does the same thing as the magic one. I will call it just magic one. But for the whole picture, it doesn't have to be connected anymore. For example, if I pick white, it will select all white. We can do the fuzziness. That's like the, you know, the threshold, how much the color has to be similar to it. Now we have our, what's it called? Actually remember, Bezier curve selection tool. Pretty much what this does is like the Bezier curve I was talking about before, you know, this curve, but for selection. You can just create the same, like, you know, thing as you did before, but now it's just a selection. It's not a shape, it's not filling anything, it's just a selection, so you can transform it and do other things with it, which is also cool. And the last two tools, the zoom tool, which does exactly what it says. It's either zooming in or zooming out. And the move tool, I'm not sure, it's probably not, it's pen tool, yeah, pen tool. Pretty much you can just move your image, like, you know, you can navigate on your image. By the way, this has shortcut space. I think you can activate this with space. So yeah, that's pretty much how it works. Well, that's our last tool for today. So that's pretty much it for today's episode. Well, if you totally hate my videos, give it a dislike, but if you kind of like it, please leave a like, nice comment, or, you know, subscribe or something. And also, if you really like what I'm doing, from now on I have turned on donations on Streamlabs, so you can donate there and help me to maintain the channel. So thank you for watching and see you in the next one.